USA, pressure washer perfection.
Hi, I'm Mike with Kranzle USA, pressure washer perfection. Today, we're going to unbox a 1622. The reason I'm showing you the box are two reasons. One, so you know what to look for if you order it online and you're waiting for delivery. And two, this little nicety from Kronzla. When you open the box, it says, "Say hello to your new favorite tool." I thought that was a pretty nice touch from the people in Germany, and it's true. So, obviously, that box was empty. I've already removed everything and put it out here. If I hadn't, there's no way I would have been able to hold up that box because the Kronsla pressure washers are very heavy because they're very well engineered and manufactured in Germany. Now, drum roll. Ladies and gentlemen, the new Kronsla 1622 TS. It's just like the old 1622 TS, except it has a couple of design modifications which we'll get to in a minute. Right now, I just want to walk through everything that comes in the box. The first thing you're going to find and should find in the box is the manual. If you're like me, you're a guy, you're like, I don't need a manual, throw it out. Don't do that. You want to keep this. The reason you want to keep it is because, one, it has lots of good information in it. Two, your serial number is recorded on the back, and you want to have that. In the event that something got hurt in the machine when shipping, or we run into a warranty issue later down the road while you're still under warranty, I need to have that serial number, otherwise I can't help you. So put this in a safe place. Now, let's take a look at the rest of the items that come with your 1622. You have a Vario Jet Nozzle on a lance. Vario means variable. The Vario Jet Nozzle, depending on how you turn it, adjusts your spray pattern. It can be just a straight stream, or you can have, a fan spray. Additionally, it has a high and low feature to it, which we'll talk about more later. Next up, we have the Kronsla high pressure hose. It has a 22 millimeter connection on either end. They're interchangeable, so don't worry about that. However, the thing to pay attention to is when you're connecting it, it's just a hand tight screw on. You don't want to overdo it. You don't want to go all gorilla and crank it down and show I am strong, right? Because if you do, you run the risk of cracking the collar, cross-threading, breaking the threads, stripping the threads, or breaking the O-ring that's inside. If that happens, that's not a warranty issue, that's a gorilla issue. Don't be a gorilla. Moving on, we have the electric cord, which has a GFI. Just a little note about the GFIs. If it doesn't work, when you plug it in and throw the switch, if it doesn't turn on, first thing to do is always reset the GFI, and you should be good to go. Finally, we have the Kronsla gun jet assembly that is standard with the machine. It's a little bit longer than most auto detailers are going to want, but for other industries like restaurants, farms, standard home user, silk screening, etc., the longer one can come in handy, especially if you're connecting it with the lance or turbo nozzle, etc. Okay, so that was everything that's in the box. Now let's talk about the machine a little bit and the new design changes. The old machine used to have some fins that came out here. Take a look. Those fins were problematic. Originally they had some theoretical value in that it helped dissipate the heat from the motor, but that's questionable. More importantly, those fins we're often getting broken in shipping. You know how shippers are. So what we did is we just removed them. While we were making that change, we decided to move the on-off switch from up here to back here. The reason I'm pointing that out is if you're in the planning process of mounting this on a wall and it's going to be near a corner or some other obstruction, you want to make sure to leave enough hand room to get your hand in there and turn it on and off. The final little design change is on top up here. They have now embossed the logo Kronsla at the very top. It's purely aesthetic and just meant to be pleasing. I personally like it. I think it's kind of cool that it's embossed. Other things you need to know about your machine and how to operate it are here. This is your water in port. Just take your hose and spin the collar until it's tight. There's a gasket there. Inside there is also a white filter, white water filter. You want to leave that in place. What happens if you don't have a permanently hooked up water supply is sometimes debris or insects get into the hose line. If you don't have this little filter, when you hook it up, you're now blowing, crickets and leaves and stuff into your pump, and that's just not a good idea. Moving on from the water inlet port is this black box. This black box is the total stop box. Total stop, if you don't know, is just that. It stops the machine from running when you release the pressure. So while you're spraying, it's all good, and when you let go, it stops. What's really cool about that is primarily noise pollution. When you're not operating the machine, now Kronslas are quiet to begin with, but now when you let go because I need more soap, I gotta change my nozzle, what have you, the machine also stops and it's just quiet. It's a nice feature and part of why auto detailers and residential users particularly like this machine. Up from the black box, underneath the little white cap, is the pressure gauge. Now, the pressure gauge has a little floating air bubble in there. That's not a design defect or a manufacturer defect. It's supposed to be there. What's more important about the gauge to take note of is on the outside there is a blue circle with some markings on it. That's bar. That's the European method of gauging pressure. On the inside is a red circle which is marked off in PSI increments. That's the one you want to pay attention to. So if you're looking at your gauge and it's a reading like 150 bar, don't freak out. Look closer and see where it's actually measuring on the PSI gauge. All right, you want to keep it all nice and neat and tidy, put your cap back. If that's not as important to you, toss the cap. Next up, right over here, you'll see the red cap. That is where you add oil to your motor as well as checking your oil. We have a whole video on checking oil of your Kranzle 1622 and 1122. I highly encourage you as a new Kronsla pressure washer owner to watch that video and understand how crucial and critical it is to keep an eye on your pressure washer oil. Underneath is a oil port where you would drain the oil. You pull that plug, let the oil drain out, fill your system back up. When you're done, of course, be sure to put the plug back in. On the far side back here is the unloader valve. Take a look. Now what the unloader valve does is control the flow of water, the gallons per minute of water. By default, this machine has 1.7 gallons per minute. So in short, the unloader valve you really never need to play with. Unless you really want to, it's your machine, do what you want. But for the most part, for good operation, good long-term operation, just leave the unloader valve alone. Moving on, we get to the water out port. That is where you connect your high pressure hose, which then goes to your gun, which then allows you to pressure wash. Before we go, we want to just talk about a couple things. Earlier, we had mentioned how the Vario Jet has a high and low pressure. The reason why it has a high and low pressure is primarily when in low pressure, that activates a chemical injector. That's what this is. The chemical injector is a handy little tool. What it does is it fits right in between the high pressure hose and the pump, fits right there, and this end goes into your chemical supply, say like a gallon of Big Green Bruce or Hellbender or any other dirt killer product. When you go into low pressure mode, the chemical gets siphoned through here, it comes out the end of your gun. That's particularly handy when you're doing a bigger cleaning job, say like your garage floor or the side of the house or your walkway or your driveway, and you want to use some chemical. You don't want to be using a foam cannon because you're going to have to keep refilling it. Put it right into your gallon or 5 gallons of cleaning product. Good to go, spray down the whole thing. So, chemical injector. Next up, we have a foam cannon. This is the official Kranzle foam cannon. It already has the 22mm connection, has variable spray as far as pattern, but also it can be horizontal or vertical. It's up to you. It's as good, if not better, than all of the other competitors out there. What we particularly like about our foam cannon is that wide mouth opening. See that? That's a good inch. Whereas pretty much all the competitors have these little small openings. And I don't know about you, but when I'm pouring stuff, I don't like to have a target that's only the size of a quarter. This big wide open mouth makes it very handy. So if you want to add a foam cannon to your order and have an official Kronsla product, so you don't run any orifice sizes or need adapters, etc., we have what you need. Next up is the turbo nozzle. The turbo nozzle, what it does is creates a cone pattern. Here's a clip. You see that cone pattern? Well, that does a very good job at cleaning, especially hard surfaces like a concrete floor or walkway, pavers, etc. You're pretty much never ever going to use the turbo nozzles on your car, except maybe the back of the truck that's full of dirt or something, because it's just too powerful and it can damage the paint or take off pinstriping, etc. But for the in the right application, this is a great tool. Since we were talking about the turbo nozzles, the one thing I didn't mention about them is that they're actually very messy. And we have a whole video on that, you can check that out. But to minimize the overspray from the turbo nozzle, you might want to get a shield guard. It's a really simple device, well made, heavy duty plastic. Is at this collar, you take it off and attach it, and then the turbo nozzle is positioned in here, whatever height you want. And what it does is it keeps the overspray from getting on you and any of the overspray from getting on other things. Like if you're working inside in the garage, you don't want spray all over the walls or all over your car that you're working by. So this is really handy. If you want, be sure to check it out and add one to your order. Next up, we have the ever popular quick disconnects. These are super handy and very popular. Now, a couple tips about quick disconnects. One, you need to have the 22mm connection. Otherwise, you're gonna have problems if you just go to some knockoff brand and try to get one. It's probably not gonna go so well, and you're gonna call me anyway. So let's cut to the quick. If you're gonna get quick disconnects, order them from us. Additionally, don't go crazy with your quick disconnects. I know it's tempting, but just don't go there. You really only want quick disconnects on the end of your gun jet assembly. And also, never use a quick disconnect at the water in port. We highly, highly discourage that because quick disconnects often leak. And while you're out pressure washing over here, you might develop a leak and not even know it, and then you're introducing air into the line, and then you're introducing cavitation to your machine. And friends, cavitation is not a warranty issue. That's a user issue. So we highly recommend that you don't use quick disconnects at the water in points. Okay, there you go. That is the unboxing of the Kranzle 1622 TS and some popular accessories. If you have any questions, give us a call, visit our website, Kronsla USA, leave a comment below. Be sure to like and subscribe. I'm Mike with Kronsla USA Pressure Washer Perfection.
Kranzle USA. Pressure washer perfection.